Welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity. I'm going to be honest, this is take two. The last take was just not going where I wanted it to go. I read the other day, and then I researched it, that made me sit there and shake my head at some of our faithful leaders. Now, the leader that's making me shake my head shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, but it's Donald Trump. And he is choosing for the defense secretary, the commentator from Fox News. Yes, the guy has been or is in the National Guard, but he's a commentator on Fox News. And it's not Fox News, it's Fox Entertainment. Because Fox News, when it was Fox News, had been fact-checked so many times and found to be producing faulty news or slightly tweaked news, so it would lean towards their views, that they got caught. And whatever it is in the States for keeping overlooking the broadcasting corporation said, you're not producing news. So they changed their name to Fox Entertainment. And so you know that if you're seeing something on Fox News, it won't necessarily be 100% factual. There'll be a little bit there. But this is the guy he's going to have as the defense secretary. I just walked away when I read this and double checked to make sure I was reading things right. I sat there and went, what? This is ridiculous. And then I passed upon my day and went and did my students, which is why I'm dressed in thingy, but I want cozy right now, so I've got my shawl on and my hot chocolate in my hands. But it got me thinking about Canada. Because okay, we're better. No, we're not. Well, in some ways we are. And our politicians sometimes are just as flippin' bad for putting their friend in, or somebody who's done them a service or done them a favor or whatever. So my example in Ontario is the most recent I can think of, though I'm sure it's happened before, is in 2019, Doug Ford put in as the Minister of Education a young man who is younger than my son and has no kids. And he doesn't have a life partner. He, I think at the time, was 34. So, what? What does he know about school? So, it's really easy to track your politicians and stalk your politicians. So I punched in his name and I went to look for what information I could get about this guy. Because Minister of Education, come on. This is my world. Well, first of all, he's an only child. That doesn't bother me. But he went to a private school. Private high school. That's as far back as I could get it. So that means smaller student to teacher ratios, which is the advantage of private schools. Their curriculum is exactly the same. This is a little sidetrack, but their curriculum is exactly the same. It has to be. In fact, as having worked for private schools, they have to jump through more hoops to make sure they're coming up to ministry expectations than the public school. So he went to a private high school, smaller student teacher ratios, and then he went to a local Southern Ontario university, where, from what I can deduct, got a 3-year Bachelor of Arts. No knock with that. Two of my kids have degrees. And then he went into politics. Okay, that's not a problem. But then he became the Minister of Education. Please, where in all of that does he have any experience in education? How does he know anything about what's going on in education and the public school system? And. I was like, excuse me? No, you just, and anybody who's in on my field will go the same thing. Now, he has now moved on. But all of us going, what is he doing there? He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm not sure who'd got him to do it, but I know it was him who said we have to add to the grade 10 history curriculum about genocide. So they picked a genocide in Ukraine. That's not Canadian history. We weren't even involved in it. I looked up the thingy. We weren't involved in it. So why is, if you want to put it in world history, go for it. Not a problem. That was a political move. That was politicking, which I hate politicking. Politics I like, politicking not. That was just to make, aren't we wonderful? There's a war going on in Ukraine. See, aren't we wonderful? We're going to check up on a genocide in the Ukraine. And we're going to add it to our curriculum to make everybody happy. Well, that grade 10 history course is literally Canadian history. That's it. It's how we came to be a country, and the grade 10 curriculum is for the 1900s. So World War One, the Roaring 20s, the Dirty 30s, World War II, the Cold War, all of those things, and how Canada was involved. It's very, very specific. I can teach it. It's very specific on Canadian history. If you want genocide in the Canadian history course, I haven't got a problem with that. That's, if it's part of our history, it's part of our history. But we don't have to go looking to the Ukraine to do that. We have genocide right here in Canada. Ask anybody who's been involved in the residential schools. Right? So that's a politicking. And it's like, he didn't know what he's talking about. And that's my point. Politicians put people in their positions, in their cabinet, who, for whatever subject, health, transportation, defense, education, environment, who know what the blue blazes they're talking about. And not just in the case of Trump, some guy off Fox News, Fox Entertainment. It's like, really, people? I know, I do understand that premiers or prime ministers they've got who's in front of them, and sometimes you have to fill a position to the best of your ability, but you might not have, it's like your shoes, and you really should be wearing a 11 and a half, but the only shoes you can find are a size 12, so they don't fit perfectly, but they'll do. And I understand that. But it is possible to get it right. And one example is a few years ago, Newfoundland had an election, or was redoing the cabinet, and the premier of the province found a doctor who'd gone into politics, and is still a doctor, and got him as the Minister of Health. Perfect choice. He's from Newfoundland. The doctor would be from Newfoundland, so he knew these special cultural environments that happen in Newfoundland. The outports. People don't want to leave the outports. Their families there, their histories there, their ancestries there. But he'd be very aware of it, so he'd know how to allocate the money to service those people. That where in Southern Ontario, we need lots and lots of land ambulances. Well, if you've got lots of people living in the outports, then you're going to need other ways to get out there to service them, like Bell Island, right? You can't drive from Bell Island to St. John's. You're going to have to take a plane or a helicopter. And that was one of those times like, yes, the premier's thinking about what he's doing. And another one, and yes, I know lots of you out there have about Justin Trudeau. However, like every other prime minister of our country, he's done some good things that everybody should remember. And one of them is in his first cabinet. I was checking it out because that's what I do. First of all, in charge of the Department for Women was female. Yes! Person in charge for the Indigenous population, for taking care of the treaties and all the rest of it, and making sure that those promises past governments have made to the reserves are fulfilled. And it's somebody from the Indigenous population. Smart move. The Department for the Ministry for Handicapped, guys in a wheelchair. Thank you, because you know what? For me, greatest disability outside of being allergic to stupidity is I have to wear glasses. So am I really going to understand what it's like to be wheelchair bound and not have access to things that the walking person can, or things like blind or deaf or. I just, when I saw his cabinet the first time, I was like, yes, finally a politician is flipping while thinking. And who was the Minister of Defense? One of his guys who had been in the Reg Forces and then dropped down to the reserves because he didn't want to quit, but became a politician. And Trudeau put him in as the defense Minister of Defense. I was like, fantastic. And the guy accepted the position, and then immediately went and quit the military. Why? Because he said that would be a conflict of interest for me to be the Minister of Defense and still be in it, because the people who are in the forces have to obey whatever the Minister of Defense says to do. Like, it was like, yes, there's some thinking. Are there ministers that I'm thinking, no? Yeah. But like I said, our premiers and our prime minister have to work with what they've got. But there's an example of a prime minister making use to fill his positions with the appropriate person, not just somebody who's going to fit the bill and do what they tell them to do. Like, I just like, yes, see, it is possible to do this. Before my hot chocolate gets cold. Oh, that's hitting my winter's right around the corner. Or it feels like it. So that's my ramble for today. And you can thank Trump for that, because I don't normally follow whatever they call I call the cabinet up here. It's probably the same idea. Down there very much I follow, being only really following their politics since he decided to make an appearance in 2016. So anyways, from our standpoint as the voters, as we're going in and elections coming, elections not coming, check to see who your premier is putting in for the ministers of, or your prime minister, for the minister of whatever department. Is he putting somebody into education who knows what they're talking about? And I'm sorry, guys, just because you've got degrees behind your name does not mean you understand what it's like to be in the public school system. If you have a degree behind your name and you spent 5-10 years in the school systems, outside of being mommies or daddies, then yes. But just because you've got kids who've gone through the system, you got a better idea than that minister of education we had who was all of 34. But it's still not the same. Get somebody in for the Department of Ministry of Health who's been in the field, because then they know what they're talking about. If you're going in for the Ministry of Environment, then get somebody who's been involved in the environment, not somebody who is a trucker or owns an oil field or like, I just want to throttle some days, and I can understand why people go, I can't be bothered to vote, because what difference does it make? I really can empathize with them going, yeah, like, no, but we have to get out and vote, and now that this has happened down south, this just should emphasize it even more, why we need to get out and vote. We have to make sure that what's happening down there does not come up here. And the mentality and that kind of thinking that we're seeing coming out of Trump, and I will not call it the Republican Party anymore, that group of people, those ideas and those thoughts are up here too. So before we end up with a government that has people in different departments and different ministries that don't know what they're talking about, let's make sure we're voting for the right guys, because we don't want to go that path. We really don't. Anyways, this ramble's gone on long enough. Have a really good night. Curl up. Enjoy. It's a little cooler today where I live, so it's time for hot chocolate and things like that. Sleep tight, guys.